I have successfully adapted a new social media trend to the vinyl community, and I have used it to find one of the best sounding records in my collection, as well as rediscovering some of my all-time favorites. How did I do this? Well, let's get into it. So if you've been on the internet and are a lot cooler, maybe younger than me, you probably know about de-influencing. So this is a new trend that has really been taking over the last few months. It's the opposite of influencing or influencer marketing, where someone who's in a position of authority or a respected figure within a certain niche influences their audience to maybe buy something or show off the things that they have bought. And us in the vinyl community are super guilty of taking part in influencer marketing. I probably have 100, 200 records back there that I bought just because someone said they sounded good, music was great, or I felt pressure to buy them to take part in a conversation that was happening in the vinyl community. Part of the crux of the de-influencing is a lot of people who buy, I don't know, makeup, clothes, whatever, instead of just showing off these hauls and these extravagant products, they're taking a step back and saying, like, wait a minute, maybe I don't need this eyeshadow. Is that a makeup? Yeah. I don't need, or I bought this eyeshadow that was really expensive, but there's actually a better one that's cheaper. Or, I bought this dress and it's actually really poor quality, so maybe you shouldn't buy it. And I started to think, you know what, there's got to be an application for the vinyl community here. We tend to buy way more than we need. We don't listen to a lot. There's only so many hours in the day. I'm not even at home most days to listen to my records. Most of my record listings while I'm like washing the dishes, I'm not even like paying full attention. So I thought, what can I do and what kind of challenge can I create to de-influence vinyl? So what I came up with is that I went through my collection and pulled records that I have not listened to, some of them ever, some of them I haven't listened to in 2-3 years, or some of them are records that I kind of forgot I even owned. So I pulled 15, 20 of them, and over the last week or so, I've just been listening to those and trying to listen to those instead of going out and buying any of the new releases that are being widely talked about right now and discussed. And I've just tried to avoid that altogether. And I definitely found some surprises. I'll get a couple of the stinkers out of the way. First of all, I got this, the OJ's Live in London. So I do love funk music. I love funk live albums. I paid $4 for this one 2 or 3 years ago. I honestly forgot I owned it. Definitely have never listened to it. Put it on and I gotta say, this is so boring. More than half of the record seems to be just the band talking, where if this is a double LP, was more immersive, but there's barely any songs on this. Definitely disappointed, and we'll probably either get rid of this one or just put it back on the shelf and never listen to it again. One that I was surprised by was this self-titled Real Estate album. They have an album called Days that I consider one of my all-time favorites. I haven't listened to this one in a long time. This is a used copy I picked up. I don't know if I ever actually listened to it. The vinyl itself was in pretty bad shape. It sounded very, very scratchy. The record itself didn't sound great. But I don't know, I was just a little bored listening to it. I don't know if the vinyl just wasn't great, but yeah, not as great as I remembered, so that was a little bit disappointing. With all that being said, I picked a bunch of records that were fantastic and I had so much fun listening to and rediscovering or even just discovering for the first time. So the first one I pulled is a Barn Burner with the album Bangers. So Barn Burner was/is, I think they kind of periodically play shows, but they're a stoner rock, new wave of British heavy metal, thrash metal band. They're from Montreal, Quebec. They released 2 albums on Metal Blade Records. They toured relentlessly through Western Canada in the mid to late 2000s. I saw them probably 10 times. Loved them. I have not listened to this in a very long time. Super fun rediscovering it. Twin guitar, like Iron Maiden, Thin Lizzy influence. Lots of thrash metal, but very modern, like stoner rock influence as well. Lots of songs about drinking beers, smoking weed. Tons and tons of fun. Awesome. Highly recommend for any fan of like 80s metal or like stoner rock, stoner metal. This is an album I bought many years ago for all of $8, but this is Blouse with Imperium. So they were kind of a dream pop-ish band. A little more psychedelic, maybe some grunge, post-rock influence as well. They're on Captured Track Records. They released 2 albums, and this is just really, really good. I don't think I'd ever explored this, but yeah, if you're a fan of like Beach House, Wild Nothing, that kind of thing, this is actually pretty in line with them, but a little bit different. I really dug this. Because I was discovering Captured Tracks Records, I had to check out my favorite, Wild Nothing with Indigo, an album that I bought brand new in 2018. One of the first albums I bought when I got back into vinyl. Listened to this quite a few times when it first came out, but I don't think I've listened to it in probably 4 or 5 years. Again, really, really good dream pop, kind of, chill wave, that kind of singer-songwriter vibe. The dude who fronts this band is awesome. He's putting out a new record this year, so this is good to kind of get excited about that. In kind of the same vein as the last 2, this is Deer Hunter with Halcyon Halcyon Digest. I hope I'm saying that even remotely close. But this is an album that I listened to, I think, in 2010 quite a bit. This was on like every critic's best of list. Look back, I think this was the number 3 or 4 album from Pitchfork in 2010. Tons and tons of acclaim, critical acclaim. I always see this listed by like really nerdy musical people as being like one of their favorite albums, and for good reason. This is just a really, really good record. I can't say enough about it, and I think I'm going to re-listen to this a few more times. It's got a lot going for it, sort of that early 2010s like bedroom pop, dream pop kind of vibe, similar to the Blouse record in a way. Really, really good stuff. Next one was a bit of a surprise, but it's the Astronauts with Competition Coupe. So the Astronauts were one of those bands that kind of got gobbled up during the surf rock craze of like 1962-63. They're from Boulder, Colorado, so they absolutely never went surfing. So that's kind of the funny thing. But RCA signed these guys to kind of compete with the Beach Boys, and they wanted them to be their version of the Beach Boys. So in addition to writing songs about surfing, they were also forced to write songs about hot rods and cars, because I guess that's what the labels considered more appealing to Midwest audiences than surfing. But I've listened to this a couple times before. I paid all of $4.19 for it a few years back. Thing that shocked me is this album sounds absolutely spectacular. Those like reverb drenched like Fender guitars just really, really filled the room with sound. I really, really enjoyed this one. The songs are actually pretty good too, even though they are kind of, you know, generic surfer rock, but pretty good stuff. I might try to check out their other albums as well. So this is a cool one. This is Margot Price with All American Made. She's a modern country artist. First of all, this packaging awesome, this like matte textured finish. This was done on Third Man Records, just very, very good. Kind of that like 1960s, early 70s sort of outlaw country sound. Willie Nelson's even on this one. I was kind of like listening like, wait, I didn't recognize that voice, but very, very cool stuff. Another country album that I think I bought for like $2 at a thrift store, Loretta Lynn's Don't Come Home a Drinkin' with Lovin' on Your Mind. I wanted to check this one out because she did pass away recently. I've been listening to some of her stuff. Does really, really good classic country album. Definitely have to listen to this more. It's in great shape and sounds pretty good too. This is a hip hop record, but it's Rat King So It Goes. This is a alternative hip hop record that came out in 2014, kind of around the same time that artists like Run the Jewels, Childish Gambino, Chance the Rapper were kind of coming out, Tyler the Creator, Earl Sweatshirt. This is very much in line with kind of the music they were creating. I think this band's kind of been forgotten a bit, but this was Wiki, who's now gone on to do a number of other projects, and Sporting Life was the producer, but this is just a really, really good alternative hip-hop record. Highly recommend it if you're into that kind of stuff. The most shocking record that I found was Michael Jackson Off the Wall. I bought this a couple of years ago, and I don't think, actually I know for a fact I never listened to this because did not realize it, but this is a US first pressing. This is maybe one of, if not the best sounding record in my collection. Holy crap, just stunning sounding. Kind of embarrassed it took me this long to listen to it, but wow, just wow. I think Bernie Grundman cut this one. It just sounds fantastic. One of the best sounding like funk, soul, pop records from the era I've ever heard. I'm definitely gonna be looking for more of Michael Jackson's albums, the original pressings particularly. One of the first jazz records I ever bought, Hubert Laws with Morning Star. I got this from a dude who was getting rid of all of his records, and I was flipping through. I remember he's like, oh, do you like jazz? I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, oh, you should check this one out. So I grabbed this. I think I listened to it probably 5 years ago and have not touched it since, but this is a Rudy Van Gelder cut. The record sounds really good. The band on this is awesome too. Hubert Laws, Bob James, Ron Carter, Billy Cobham, among many, many others, but really, really good sounding record. Definitely not my cup of tea as far as the type of music on it, but it was still a very enjoyable experience, a great CTI record. This is an album by a band I used to go see a lot. They were a local band. It's Molten Lava with Sevens and Nines. They were a drummer and a bass player who played kind of this combination of like hardcore, thrash, and like stoner rock. Just a total blast, and I was shocked that this record sounded so good because I have no idea where this was pressed at and when it was pressed, but yeah, it was really cool to rediscover this. I don't think it's available on Spotify though, but I think you can find it online if you really look around. And last was another jazz record that I think I listened to once many years ago and have not touched since, but it is John Clemmer's Touch. I bought this because it is a Mobile Fidelity record. I think this was was probably the second Mo-Fi record I bought. And I only got it because it was $7 at a jazz record store in Chicago. Definitely never gave it a particularly detailed listen, but I put it on today and it sounds really, really good. I mean, it is sort of that, I guess they call it like the smiley mastering, not a ton of bottom end on it. Lots and lots of mid and high range frequencies, but very, very clean sounding, very, very interesting. So I was definitely quite surprised. I'm going to be listening to this one again in the future. So those were my picks that I kind of went through and grabbed. I have a bunch more that I also picked up as well that I think that I would like to be listening to and kind of try this again and maybe challenge myself. Okay, you have to listen to 10 records that you already own before you can, buy one new one. But I want to put the challenge out to you that if you're a hardcore record collector, you have a lot, you're buying a lot of records, go back to your collection. Make sure you flip through all of them. There's some that might have been, pushed back a little bit that you forgot that you own, or maybe there's some that are, sandwiched between two other ones, or you put it in the wrong sleeve. I don't know. There's got to be some records that you haven't listened to in a long time, or maybe never have. And I challenge you to pull 10, 15, 20 of them and just go listen and rediscover the music, because that's what it's all about. And you don't always have to buy the stuff that is being talked about or someone else has told you need to buy. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.